and welcome to Scale Your Sales, a podcast. Now, my next guest is 4 times sales leader, known for building and scaling top performing sales teams in rapid growth environments. She has built and led award-winning sales teams in many of the top Austin tech companies like HomeAway, Vrbo, Spredfast, and Optimizely, and Upland Software. Now, welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Julie Mann.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. Now, we was just talking about the elections, plus we've got kind of Black Lives Matter, and we've all kind of gone, well, in London, we've gone back into second times the lockdown. So there's a lot going on, isn't there? And you've got these high growth companies that are really kind of all primed and ready to go. How are you managing your sales team to stay relevant to their customers, to stay motivated, and to keep the company growing?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge in a pandemic for sure. I think there's two sort of things that I think about. One is we've got to change the way we communicate to our customers, to our prospects. When we're not face to face, we have to be able to be engaging in the small amounts of times that we have in front of them and be relevant and focused to what they care about. And two, and where I probably have spent most of my time as a SDR leader, is making sure that we're connected as a team and people feel emotionally supported and people are engaged and able to learn and be educated on products and selling knowledge throughout all the crazy things going on in the world. As well as just have a space to talk and vent and be supported. So, I would say one of the things that we do on our team to just help the connection with the team, make sure people feel supported, is we do a couple fun happy hours a month where we'll do a costume contest, or we'll do pets and babies get to come and people just get to share about their life and vent and have that human connection in such a weird time. And then from, a training and learning perspective, something that I've realized as the, attention span of humans is now, I think, lower than that of a goldfish. We can't just put a deck in front of people and say, hey, learn this, the eyes glaze over and it becomes really hard for people to retain info. So what we've done is we've really gamified most of our training. So I use a tool called Kahoot, where you can have people voting, you can set up teams and matches in live time, and we do a lot of prizes and sort of fun things to keep people engaged. So those two things I think have helped let the team feel like we're all in this together. We're going to get through this together. There's a safe place to talk about relevant issues and to unwind a little bit with the group you work with every day. And then we can still hone our craft and get better at things. We just have to do it in a little bit of a different way.
So have you changed the targets in light of the environment we're in, or really has that just continued?
Yeah, I will say we had our best quarter ever during the pandemic and the first quarter of the pandemic, which was really challenging for most people. And there wasn't really a need, at Optimizely to change the targets just due to that. But we did have to get really scrappy and we did have to meet people where they were, because just trying to roll over and throw out a sales pitch to people who have some pretty real concerns on their mind now is just not the way to go. So we tried to meet our buyers and our customers where they were and what they wanted to talk about, and how can we just help you? How can we add some value or give you some advice in what you're trying to do, whether you go with us or not? And that tactic really worked.
It's interesting because you're having to do that with your team, and then your team are having to do that with their customers, really. I wonder how much of this will continue after the pandemic. I don't know if you have a sense of, actually, this is going to change the way we do things.
I think some of it will change the way we do things. And I think some of it is for the better. Sometimes you get wrapped up, I think, and I know for me personally, I do, in just you know, quantity and volume of things. And, you know, there's always that balance between quantity and quality. It's really important, but you sometimes lose sight of, let me just think about this as this person as a human. Like, what do they care about? What do they need help with? And let me stop the process for a minute to just try to be a human who can help another human. I'm hoping that part stays. I've seen some really great things come from people just offering help and resources without expectation in return. I'm hoping that stays for sure. I think we've also learned that you don't have to jump on a flight or fly out a million people to go meet somebody face to face, that there's efficient ways that we can use time to get the same things accomplished, and allow people to also, you know, be at home with their family more and not be commuting back and forth all of the time. So it's that real integration of personal and business that I think we're finding a sweet spot on during this, which is kind of a silver lining in a tough time.
Excellent, excellent. So, you know, what practical strategies can you offer that has enabled buyers to buy more and for your sales team to build long-term relationships?
Yeah, I am a huge fan of really using nurture tactics to help your customers and help your business. And, you know, I would say tangibly what that looks like is, so many times we spend so much effort trying to figure out who a buyer is, and we find that they're interested. We find we're talking to the decision maker maybe, and we have a meaningful conversation with them. And for whatever reason or another, you know, they don't end up buying. Well, what do? We go back and we say, okay, let's go find different people from different companies. Like, we just isolated a needle from the haystack, and we basically just throw it back in the pile of haystack and, you know, go try to find a different needle. And that tactic just isn't very effective. And you spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time if you're not really thoughtful about, let me collect this needle and I'm going to put it in a pile of a bunch of other needles that I can tap into at the right time. So using nurture tactics where someone's an almost opportunity, meaning you are talking to the right person, they have a really big need, they're looking at vendors and shopping for something that your solution also can help them with, but maybe timing just isn't right or budget isn't right. Instead of giving up on that whenever they fall out of the funnel and trying to go get something new, you know, keeping that group together and just being human there, you know, hey, I totally understand that this wasn't a fit for you today. Just curious so that I can learn and get better. Like, who did you go with? What, you know, what were they doing better than what we did? You start to build a relationship and trust with somebody, and then you check on them throughout. Is it going like you thought? I thought of this because we talked about this very specific thing and I wanted to send it your way. And people love to buy from people that not only they trust, but that did take a genuine interest in trying to help them, as opposed to, you've got a pain point, I have a solution. It's deeper than that. And so having really thoughtful nurture processes set up to help you facilitate that type of relationship is huge and can be a really, really big part of a company's growth.
It reminds me when I spoke to Alice Kemper, and she was saying that she was the top sales person, and that was exactly her tactic. She nurtured relationships and stuck with them. She said, I won a huge portion of my business because of that. That they weren't ready now, but they became my friends. And even when they moved companies, I stuck with that relationship. And so often they make a decision, it's a big decision, but they're not always happy with the decision they made and they're looking to get out of it. If you stay close to them, then often you can win that back. And it seems crazy that salespeople don't do that after nurturing that relationship. You've got them to a peak level and they walk away from it. So I think that's a great tactic.
Yeah. And you know, the reason why I found that most salespeople don't do that is not because they're not thinking this is a great idea. They're not smart enough to do that. They don't know that there's value in it. It's because there aren't systematic processes in place to help them do that. And so something as simple as anytime you have a meeting, let's say an AE holds a meeting and there's something missing, there's timing, budget, something's missing, just having those clear criteria checked there and having an AE say, this is an account we should nurture and checking a nurture box, then now you can run reporting. You can have this visual of what was missing, you know, when was the time of this? This is a high priority account for me to nurture. And then you start to be able to do it in a systematic process oriented way.
Yeah, and I think also Laurie Richardson said have a third list, and that's the third list really. And I think in this environment as well, this is where you can, the nurturing is where you win a lot of deals as well, rather than, you know, the acquisition side.
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
So let's switch it up a bit and talk about, you know, we're both women here, both women in sales. Let's talk about diversity. What's your experience? How much do you think it's actually moved on? Because you're in a senior level, and there must have been some challenges that you found kind of moving up the ranks and moving around companies and things that you see.
Yeah. I think we've made progress. If I look over the time that, you know, I've been in sales, you know, over the last 12 years, you know, seeing leadership groups that were solely men to women, you know, creeping in, to different ethnic backgrounds, you know, being invited in a bit more. We've made some progress, but I don't think we've made enough at all. And I've certainly had those experiences, especially younger in my career, that really shaped my point of view on things, and maybe not for the better. You know, I saw environments where it was really all men making the decisions in leadership and in sales, and it was a kind of a boys club where not only was it a inside of the office, it was an outside of the office thing. And you know, at team events and team outings, you would see behavior where, you know, it really, from leadership, people were setting the precedent of this behavior is okay. You can get kind of wild and party. And yeah, I mean, I feel like as we've grown, some of that has become unacceptable, and enough people have said that out loud that others have adapted the way that they behave. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet where we're getting an equal amount of voices. Anytime I make a decision that's a big decision, the first thing I do is, how do I get context about what exactly is going on from different types of people? Because that always shapes. Maybe they're a loud voice that wants me to go do something, I'm not going to go do it, but that will shape my judgment and my opinion of what's going on, and inform my decision. And there really isn't enough of that going on. I think there are a lot of allies in men and in people who are sort of that majority, where they are now speaking out and inviting women, inviting people of culture and different backgrounds, a different diversity of thoughts to come into the equation and the decision-making process. But it's just not happening enough yet.
I mean, it's interesting because our customers, we're all in a global economy, and, you know, our customers therefore are very diverse. And it seems crazy that knowing that that's the way the, you know, e-commerce is moving forward, and commerce is moving globally, that we haven't thought about that we've still kept it, you know, pretty linear and non-diverse. And there's lots of barriers that are still in their way. You would think that, you know, well, it's a smart business decision. Why do you think progress has been so slow?
I think, for one, you have to start at the beginning. What are the entry level jobs that are being hired for today that in 5 years these folks will be in leadership positions? Like, if we don't do the work early, I'm fortunate enough that I get to run an SDR team that is, you know, the entry to sales, and I really pride myself on hiring people that will progress and, you know, maybe be my boss one day, you know. So I think being really thoughtful about diversity from that point is super important. I also think that it is a natural tendency for anyone to sort of decide to appoint somebody that relates to them in certain ways. And we're used to thinking about, oh, they look like me, they sound like me, they act like me. But there's other things that we can all relate to that have nothing to do with gender and race. And we have to just be really intentional about doing that. And I just don't think that's what's happened yet. I don't think people are really coming into the interview room, coming into the decision-making process about a candidate with, what can we relate to? And let's take these other sort of biases aside. And are they going to be able to give me an opinion that's totally different than mine? Like, we're just not conscious enough about making that decision. So we've got to start from both ends. When you're someone in the room hiring, being really thoughtful about getting that diversity of thought and diversity. And then, you know, when you're somebody who is sort of the feeder for lots of other roles that are going to be influential in the company, you know, making that a priority.
Yeah, yeah. So what tried and tested strategy would you offer listeners to scale their sales?
I'm telling you, it's the nurture strategy. And there's two ways to do it. I mean, I'll expand on it more, but that really is it. That's a successful enterprise SaaS company should have 40% of its revenue coming from an account that at one point was interested in buying, fell out of the funnel, and then was captured back in. And that's how you work harder, smarter, not harder. And so I would say there's two things to think about to make you successful as an individual seller that will scale to your organization and really aid in that tremendous growth. It's the almost opportunities, the almost sales funnel opportunities that come in, but they're missing timing, budget. Maybe it's authority, you're just not quite high enough in the org. Being able to isolate those and really workshopping them and building relationships there. And the other one is the full-on close lost opportunity. The ones that were in the funnel, had great conversations, started progress, really thought it was a close to becoming a deal, and fell out because they went to a competitor, or usually that's what happens, or, you know, decided that the budget was too high. Having those, really trying to learn, and not for the sake of pushing and peddling your you know, number, but for the sake of actually learning, what is it that your product didn't have? What is it that made the customer go with someone else? If you can catch those as well, let it inform your process and your sales cycle. And then, you know, be sure that you're reaching out and building those relationships in a timely fashion. I guarantee those are the two keys to scale your sales.
So how do you catch those? When you say catch those, what do you mean? What do you need in place to make sure you don't lose them?
Yeah, you need some really good flags and identifiers in your Salesforce process or whatever CRM that you're using, to where as soon as you know, an account executive is getting that signal that somebody isn't on board anymore, they're going with a competitor, that you are able to indicate on those fields, this is what's happening, the sale isn't going to go through, this is why, and is as much detail as you can possibly have. And, you know, there's an art to creating 4 or 5, you know, fields that capture exactly what you need. What's the date of the contract that they, you know, are signing with the new company? What competitor did they go for? What was the price? Like, get as granular and specific, and people won't give you that information unless you've done your job and you're coming from that place of, listen, I'm trying to be better and improve, and I would love your help on that. Just tell me what I missed and where we missed. If you can capture that information and then set up kind of a view or a fuel line where you can see all of those at once, you start to see some correlations that you can deliver to decision makers in your company to either get better or to solve problems around. And then now you have a list of people that you will regularly connect with, maybe in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, to just check in on and genuinely say, how's it going? You know, is there anything you still don't have, not from a sales perspective, but just from a human perspective and a developmental perspective? You know, where did I go wrong? I think you start to form some really great relationships if you have a process that captures those 3 pieces and a way to view them sort of all in front of you. Because when I say catch, the problem is usually we see, you know, an email come through that somebody fell out of the funnel or whatever, but no one's just piling those emails up and then able to run a scalable process. You have to make sure that you do the work so that there is a Salesforce view of every single person this happened to, and there's reason codes that you're learning from.
How do you ensure that your company, your sales team, or all of the members of the company are delivering the best customer experience? So all of the touch points are fluid and seamless and delivering the kind of experience that you want that will add to the sale.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think about it in two ways. One is the process component, which is you need to see the history of everything that happened in one place. Your CRM needs to be your source of truth. And you can't do that if emails and communication aren't logged there. So making sure you have a really clean Salesforce instance or whatever CRM you're using, so that you can visually see the life cycle of sales and marketing there. And wow, we sent 1 million emails to somebody who is already like signing a contract about, have you heard about our product? That's not a good experience, right? So visually being able to map that out. And then I think getting the context is the other piece, and being able to hear that. So tools out there, you know, like Gong, that can record every single call so that you can coach in live time, so that you can really understand where reps maybe didn't deliver the value they should have, or, you know, didn't say the things that that customer needed to hear at the moment, and went off the rail a little bit, which we've all done. But we can coach and we can sort of learn about that. And those two pieces together, they tell the full story in my mind.
I wrote a poster about Gong, nothing personally, but I thought, oh gosh, this is just sounding like salespeople are going to be robots. You know, I don't know if you have a view, and I can see the sense in it, but actually kind of we're moving away. We can start to move away from the relationship because we're so kind of focused on the data, you know, and dehumanizing sales. And I wonder, how far is too far?
Yeah, I hear you. And I think you could overuse a tool like that and make it very checkboxy and prescriptive, and let's make sure somebody does this or that. But I think you've lost sight of sort of what when you're doing that, I think you lose sight of what the tool is really designed for. Like, my favorite thing about a tool like that is that I can create these libraries of what good looks like. What is a great value prop sound? And there's probably 30 flavors of it. It's not just one. Everybody has their own style, but to be able, especially to somebody new in their career, to showcase, this is what good sounds like, and hey, this is what bad sounds like. And, you know, no finger pointing or hard feelings, but it's good for us to get context about what's resonating and what's not. So really just the ability to curate that sort of library and have those sound bites, I think, is the most valuable part of a tool like that.
Excellent. So, Julie, who is your hero or shero?
It's probably a popular answer, but it is definitely true and authentic for me, which I would say Brené Brown is my shero. She is incredible. I think just the thought and the point of view she has about incorporating the human aspect of who you are and bringing that to work or anything you do. I can't, you know, tell you how many times when I started in sales, you know, there's personal and then there's the business side, and like, be sure that you're bringing your corporate side. And for a long time I did, and it was very buttoned up, and, you know, tried really hard to be this person that I thought I was supposed to be. And there's a lot of strength in being vulnerable and being human. And some of the things that people are fearful of, you know, letting out in the office place actually facilitate the biggest amount of growth. And so, you know, with my teams, I'm transparent as I possibly could be. We call each other out very politely and, you know, appropriately, but you know, I want to live in a place where I can be vulnerable, where I can share things about my personal life. Like, there's things to me that are way more important than work. You know, I have a 2-year-old daughter that is my life, and, you know, it's important that people know that. That's some of what drives me. That's a big part of my motivation, and to get up every morning and be the best I can be. And without incorporating who I am authentically, and, you know, the things that scare me, the things that make me feel nervous, then, you know, you're only getting a flavor of me that I'm trying to curate just for someone else, not the real deal. And so I really encourage people that I work with to be their true selves. And I think there's a huge place for that in the office. And I'm seeing more and more people do that, which I love. And I feel like Brene Brown really inspired a lot of that change.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So how can listeners get hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Julie Mann. I'm currently at Upland Software, about to build out another SDR team, which I'm super, super excited about. And I would love, I meet with lots of people from all different types of sales and marketing and different types of backgrounds, just to learn and to kind of share best practices, get better at our craft. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email, and I'm happy to have a conversation.
So you're recruiting?
I am recruiting. If
Right.
you're an SDR, want to be an SDR, want to be a part of a cool program, also reach out on LinkedIn.
Brilliant, brilliant. I've loved talking to you, and you've shared such great insights and been very full and frank. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Julie.
Thank you, Janice. I really enjoyed it.